So, anyways, welcome to RMB's R&D. Today is a particular special day.
Very
No?
special.
Very special, absolutely special. Because somebody before the end of our video is gonna become rich. Somewhere in the world, I don't know, like coincidental. Just, because it happened. And we are going to recollect all the funny, nice event, or a drastic event, or a moment of doubt they will encounter in the past 1.5 years circa since we started working on our project at ZooBC.
Now, I guess to give people a little bit of thing, we've mentioned it maybe a little bit in the stream before. What is ZooBC?
Alright, ZooBC is innovation in blockchain technology. Is a sort of result of research and development efforts. Is the result of years of working in blockchain project, dreaming that the right things was there to solve the problem that we had while implementing blockchain for our client, knowing they didn't exist, understanding deeply which were the pain points and the problems in implementing blockchain solution of various kind, from ownership of sport things, from lifestyle, loyalty point, multi-level, everything. Not only classic token by ICO, but actually document management, flow of procedures, and so on and so forth. What does a blockchain really needed? What would have been the dream blockchain to have as a platform to implement the solution for the client? To guarantee security above the mythical aspect, the blockchain is cannot be changed, is secure above, and leave this thing, but to really provide something secure, something that natively can provide the functionalities that we wanted and we needed. And that is the sparkle that gave birth to Blockchain Zoo as a company, but as ZooBC as a product, which is a platform that today is being, in a few weeks, being released in beta version, open source for the public, finally, and a lot of projects are going to start being implemented on top of it. And has not been an easy path to get to the current super cool functionality that we have, stable system and algorithm that work properly. The mechanics to protect the blockchain that is innovative, new. How many things we went through, how we got to this result.
So that's what we're trying to do and what we've done. And today we want to talk about a little bit how we got there. So we have, which I think I give a very short version of the early story, and Roberto can jump in if there's interesting stuff that I skip, which frequently there is. So in the creation of Blockchain Zoo, the company, I think Roberto had just come from a previous company which left in a loss for a lot of terrible reasons that we won't try to go into here. I think they're not his fault, but he suffered the consequences quite a lot. And was somewhat scarred by them, maybe. At the same time, I was getting to know Roberto over the internet just by chance through a mutual friend, through a series of kind of strange coincidences. And I knew pretty quickly after meeting him that I was interested in the kind of stuff he's doing and that I wanted to go into business with him. So I tried to do some code for him, and then, one thing evolved into another. And at the time he wanted to start this company, Blockchain Zoo, I threw away all my possessions in the US, 90%. And I got rid of the house that I was renting, and I flew, 12 hours around the world. Flew more than 12 hours, but it's 12 hours time difference to Bali.
Not even the disciple with Jesus being so proactive in leaving family, leaving possession. Some Francis, gave everything to the father and started going inside the bag. In fact, Barton arrived here inside the bag. He made this hole for the arms.
In fairness to them, I get paid more. So we came and we started doing this thing together. And my little short version is for about the first year of the company, we're selling consulting services and implementation services. So we had lots of people who wanted to come to us as people who know blockchain, they want to build on the technology, they want to do blah, blah, blah. And some of these went well, others went not so well, but I think more than anything, we got to a point with the company where we realized we're spending all of our time and energy to do this consulting work. We're only making the money back linearly higher than the expenses that we put in for the company. And it's not the thing that we're really passionate about. And we got to a point where we decided to try to gamble everything on an actual new technology that we care about.
So, okay, let me try to reminisce and go back to the day -1. I was in fact involved in a business in Singapore that has been a very tragic end. The idea was to create this holding to control the several small companies that I had an idea and project that was bringing on. And while things seems moving, too late realized that the money were missing from the bank, and it went all in a disaster. I lost quite a lot of money. At the same time, I was freshly a single father with the kids living at home with me, and this really made me in the need of to make a choice. So I was quite better off with some crypto here and there, but I had so many people coming to me and say, hey, I need a blockchain project, etc., etc. I met Barton because he was able to code. First thing I asked, do you know blockchain? He was like, oh, I don't know. I said, look at this. There is this website to do, takes this data. He performed super well. And the company I was with was refusing to pay him. So I said, look please don't get scared. Tell them to piss off. I give you this, how much I sent? $20,000, something like this, which was a good amount of money for the code that was done, which we never end up using anyway. But tell them not to use your code, and this at the same moment I was leaving the company, and I wanted to start something for the community, an association of blockchain experts. So no doubt I called the people that I knew, and I started calling about 8-9 people, including Barton. And this group of people that knew about blockchain started working so well that a lot of people come to ask us implementation, deployment, etc., etc. Unfortunately, some of the other people, for a reason or another, left or followed their own things remotely. It remained a very small group of 4 or 5 between the initial co-founders that were still working together, but we're doing consulting. A lot of work came in through one of the co-founders, and other co-founders were there in sleeping mode, waiting their moment to help. Some had to fly in from remote, like Europe. Barton himself was flying in from the United States a couple of times, until we decided to Barton decided to move to Bali and work full time in this project that was creating this company, this association. But really working on these things, we realized that we need to do something else. We were not building anything special. Like we were doing a lot of favor to other companies because they were paying us correctly, so it's a job, not a favor. Sure. But we were empowering them to have blockchain system for their businesses. We were not building any value for ourselves except experience, but we had no intellectual properties. We were making money. There were quite a lot of money in the bank account, but so at a certain point, we were unhappy. The manager with the CEO we had was not good. So I spoke to the other shareholder and said, hey guys, we have some money in the bank. We want to close today and we split the money that we have. Or we close a year from now, we don't split any money, we're going to be finished. Or we bet all the money we have on something amazing, and either it goes super well or it fails brutally. And now we are at the point that we don't know, it's going to fail brutally or it's going to go super well. That's why we want to tell you the story on how we got to the situation where we are today, right?
Absolutely. So this is, I think Roberto told it correctly, and this is, so we got to this point this culminated in a meeting in, so this story that Roberto just told where he pitched to the whole company, we've got to do something, happened around December of 2018, and Roberto came on board as the CEO of Blockchain Zoo to actually, manage this thing directly, this kind of new course. And by around March of 2019, because we were still working on other client projects and things at this time, by around March of 2019, me and Roberto and another associate of ours called Stefano Grigio went to Thailand to have the first real brainstorming for ZooBC. We kind of met there.
We didn't even know it was going to be called ZooBC, right? Correct. At that time.
No, at the time, all we knew was that we had a few objectives. One, we wanted to build a blockchain that was properly ours. And at first, we didn't really care whether it's innovative or whether it's something else, because we just needed one that's ours.
Let me chip in here.
Very quickly into the design of the thing, we realized that as long as we're going to build one, we need to make something innovative. There's lots and lots of cool stuff that we've learned over all the time that we've spent working on these.
There was a practical reason behind all this. Let me just put the correct dot on top of the I's, right? So, we've been using a lot, depends on the client request, we're very eclectic, we've always been very eclectic with the best platform solution. But, and hello to you that says hello to us in the chat, we were trying to use what we believe to be more secure and better. And between several platforms, there was one platform called NXT, NXT, 3 letters, that I personally follow a long time since I started working with blockchain more actively and helping with the code. So I knew well this NXT. This project, though, evolved to be not exactly what we wanted for several reasons, some technical and some in terms of license. The way that the core developers of this project took the property of this public effort that was done, make their own, and gave the ownership to a company and start requesting whatever people were using the code to give them 10% of the crazy. We said, we like in a good part how this could work. We need to have our own intellectual property that give value to the company. Should we just rewrite the code? Because in terms of license and patents in software, if I create the same effect, unless somebody patent an algorithm logic that I recreate, I can recreate the software like, for example, Linux did with Unix, MS-DOS did with Unix as well, recoding it from zero and using. So we started thinking, should we recode and have the same effect, but while we were doing it, knowing all the problem and the issue that the piece of software had, we were start thinking, should we instead add also this functionality? Should we add also that functionality? Should we fix the problem? Should we make it smoother in another direction? Knowing that there were two roads, one fast and brief to get to a result, one longer that would have taken us to deliver something after a long time, right?
And so this idea turned into something quite large in scope. In essence, as we kind of boiled out this initial thing, this thing that we now call ZooBC, it became clear that we wanted to have something like a research effort, so this is something that's going to continue for a long time. It's going to involve doing, like trying things. It's going to involve seeing what works, what doesn't work, and trying to make different versions of the technology, tackling different problems. But we had to start somewhere. So at this meeting, we really sat down concretely to try to make a plan for, okay, what's the rough characteristic, what's the rough sketch of this thing we want to do? And already we had ideas. We had one of them that it seems like everybody in the blockchain world has skipped, is not really taken seriously, is that blockchains take a long time to download. If you ever, I don't know if anybody in the audience, all three of you, have ever tried to run a Bitcoin node, but if you try to set this thing up and it starts trying to download the blocks since the beginning of Bitcoin, I tried it one time on my personal computer, which was reasonably powerful. For 2 weeks, the thing downloaded and never caught up until I got fed up with it burning my processor every single day. And I wasn't even doing mining, or I was just trying to have my own copy of the ledger For Ethereum, the problem is even worse because the ledger is twice as large and the complexity of executing the transactions is even higher, so it takes even longer.
But no,
There
let me
has to
say,
be some way.
Ethereum is half the age of Bitcoin and twice the size of Bitcoin as a blockchain. So the only problem was not only how long it takes to download this huge thing, but why do I need to download this huge thing in the first place, right?
Yeah. So in fact, we thought that this people in practice skip this step by doing this thing which is unsafe in blockchain, which is somebody out there posts a copy of their existing database and you just download the database and start from it. This unsafe practice has become so prevalent that Ethereum's Parity client has actually, or I should say Parity's Ethereum client, has actually built the function directly into their implementation. So when you start the blockchain, you can just copy the state of the database from another node, and then hope for however long that you got the right
various solutions. And one of the things that was very particularly interesting for us is that being blockchain a system that is alive, right? It's not a software that when you finish you quit and you shut it down. Blockchain, it almost doesn't stop. There are hundreds of thousands of nodes that keep running it, and making changes to the software that are drastic is very dangerous and very difficult. While you can have a version number 10 of the software you run in your PC, and it's not a big deal if it doesn't work, use the previous one. Once a software is connected with many other, per se a chat software, if you update to a version that is incompatible with the one before, you cannot chat with the other people anymore. And this means that with the chat, it's just a matter of you download a different client. But with the blockchain, they need to be constantly in connection with all the other nodes. This is a very dangerous thing. And this leads a lot of the major players in this field to come with the solution that are that takes attached to the bottom engine that cannot change drastically. It has always to be backwards compatible. So solution like finding a way to access in a safe, cryptographic safe manner the current state of the blockchain without downloading the full thing is something that in many cases has been solved partially with the solution that are not fully cryptographic safe, but are solutions added there like this. And not only that, scalability, a lot of other important functionality as well. So we were thinking, should we address this thing once we are coding from zero something? Should we address this issue and solve them?
We couldn't help ourselves. Really.
Yeah, right.
Like we sat down, and at first, because I tend to be the very conservative one who's like, no, this is how many resources we have, and this is what the budget we have, and this is the time we have, and blah, blah, blah. And so we should stick to the minimal possible thing. But even I was swayed, like at a certain point, if we want to create this futuristic blockchain that solves these problems, we're already committing these resources to create one. It feels a waste not to try while we do the first one. And so this, I think, became like the driving logic that, hell, as long as we're going to create a blockchain from scratch, why recreate the problems that we're going to try to solve later? Why put the energy in to perfect, like, if I'm building a deck on my house and I know that there's like half of the deck that I don't want to keep, I'm not going to go and put all the little ornaments on the thing and make sure that all the nails are filed down, and because I know that it's going to get thrown away. So why we try to promise to put that energy on something we're going to throw away?
But one thing leads to another, one leads to another, and eventually we found ourselves with a long-term project. So while we started with something that could have been a fast solution to deliver a project in the following few months, using our technology that was pretty much a rewrite of another technology, we end up saying, okay, you know what? Let's take the time and let's implement the blockchain platform of our dream. The blockchain that can do and does all those things that we dream we had when implementing other people's business model solution on blockchain. All those things that people invent crazy smart contract on Ethereum to go close to do. All those things that are totally missing from other blockchain and there is no way to add them. And we're talking about things that are necessary to comply with the regulators. For example, basic things. if you use a blockchain, and we saw, I had a close friend that has this project, to put the shares of a company as tokens in a blockchain and use the blockchain to transfer the shares and create ownership of companies. Given that the government allow you to do so, but given that there is an issue that I can send shares of a company to somebody without this person ever wanting them, because the incoming transfer is automatically closed when the sender sends something.
So you mean when my company that's not an LLC and whatever money of the clients that it burned, I'm going to be legally liable for. That means that at the last minute I just transfer the ownership to you, and now you're the one who goes to court.
Which can be the title ownership of a car that just kills somebody on the road. Meaning that in the basic functions, you need the recipient to accept an incoming transaction. It can be money that comes from bribes or stolen, or somebody being kidnapped and a ransom being paid. And to avoid, I distribute to all my partner, but also to some other people they don't know, and they find themselves in trouble because they receive money that they don't have idea of the origin. So one thing that we said is natively a blockchain should have a method for an account to flag themselves like I need to authorize incoming transaction of one kind, of another kind, etc., etc.
You can protect
And this can be emulated, but never being natively in a blockchain. So for ZooBC we made it, but that's not only the thing.
No, we have a long list of stuff that we want
Oh my God. Because, for example, you want to have a third party to escrow a transaction.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a computer, software, or a human? Let's say the classic things of the notary. You want to make sure that the money are there to pay you for the transfer of a title. The other side, they need to make sure that the title is correct, is clean, respect the agreement taken, think about the letter of credit, think about, invoice that need to be pre-financed, other things. There is always the need of a third party to stamp and authorize the process, and both other parties need to put in place the item that need to be asked. So we thought that why not? Let's implement natively in the blockchain also the functionality that each transaction can add one address, not only the recipient, but one other address. There is the address that can approve or reject the transaction in place. We have a little bit of a message. Can ZooBC help with animal welfare?
That's quite an interesting question. You mean like would blockchain have prevented the Tiger King catastrophe?
Surely, as we know, all animal or pet need to be microchipped, at least in most countries, right? This microchip is actually only accessible to veterinary, because who has a machine to read microchip from horses or things? But most of the Android phones now are able to read NFC. It wouldn't take much to allow client wallet in a cell phone to scan the microchip in a dog and automatically see or leave a message, hey, I geolocated this dog in this place,
Just like our food, all pet food comes from somewhere. Like the dog food has the meat, the dog food has whatever other ingredients, the cat food, and oftentimes this is not taken as seriously as the ingredients that go into human food, because you could feed your cat trash and what's he going to do, complain?
Think about this as well.
And
for example,
this is something blockchain specializes in, is that this tracking, so you
auditing, tracking.
Yeah, see the whole history of development, assign accountability.
Even more simple things, I bring my cat to the vet and he gives some injection or whatever kind, I don't know. Then I move in another city, the new vet has no clue. They are asking me the small booklet where I have no idea what...
In fact, one of my cats has a health passport for exactly which vaccinations on time. We lost the passport.
That's exactly what happened to me. And you end up to redo the same vaccination, the dogs die, or So for example, the health passport of a pet, given the unique ID from the chip, can be very well hosted on a blockchain to answer the question of this anonymous... But to go back to ZooBC and the innovation that we put in place.
So I tossed out probably of all these, the biggest one that we wanted to do is right at the core, which was something that I think Roberto was kind of obsessed with at the time, and at first I didn't really see it as such a big deal, but over time I grew to share his passion for this issue, which is why does finance have to be the thing that secures the blockchain? So, because in most of the existing systems, it boils down to this one way or other. Either in proof of work, you have to have the money to buy the most computers that go on the network. In proof of stake, you have to have the most cryptocurrency. All these other proof of capacity, blah, 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 are variants of proof of work, except for instead of processor cycles, you use some other physical resource that you have to buy. Delegated proof of stake is the same who has the money, except you lend the money to the person you want to support. And in all cases, the people who put the most dollars are the ones who end up controlling the blockchain. And so really, we went through the longest part of the design that we did, and this, the inception of this came from Roberto wanting to do it early on and me saying that it was impossible. Eventually, and then we went through over several months, mostly after this Thailand meeting, for the next 3 or 4 months, really, I think we all racked our brains about it. I especially racked my brain. I went to sleep thinking about it. I woke up thinking about it.
In fact, Barton came out with the best solution in the way. The cool thing is that all this came with a vision. Okay, the vision of this technology, and the vision of the technology was very abstract. There were no written algorithm. There was not even written possibility that this was actually possible. But yet, we bet on it. We bet that we can find a solution. And it's mathematically proven. It's not a solution that we claim and we tell people. So that in the ethics of delivering something secure for real, not secure by obfuscation, ignorance, or unknown. And unfortunately, there are a lot of solutions around that they live on the balance of people not having broken them yet.
Absolutely.
The idea is this. And, I personally see blockchain with 2 groups. Those that are secured by an external factor, and those that are secured by an internal factor. External factor is the minings, for example, for Bitcoin, is a machine outside the data of the blockchain that produce numbers to make a blockchain secure. Once you can produce another blockchain with better numbers, let's say, it becomes the best choice for all the nodes. This factor is external to the blockchain, so it's not something that is determined by the past history of the blockchain. Can change any minute. Somebody tomorrow come out with a huge quantity of mining machines and they can win the race against the others. Another one is those that are guaranteed by an internal factor. For example, proof of stake. Proof of stake gives authority to those with the majority quantity of stake, and giving a small lottery between the small group that is generated, people can create the blocks and control the blockchain, which means that I need to own the majority of the economy of a blockchain in order to attack it. Which means that is economy, the security aspect of the blockchain.
In both cases. And so Roberto had this vision, this idea, where he goes, no, it's the people who actually put the work to run the nodes and make the blockchain work and make it decentralized that should be rewarded, that should be the ones trusted to secure the thing.
This is another point. Let's consider that as of today, all the blockchain that are around, because they're all imitation of the original Bitcoin blockchain, they make a big mistake. They reward only those that create the blocks, which are called miners in general, but they don't reward those that verify and assure that the quality of the blockchain is good.
That serve them to other people, that serve them to each other.
Which are all nodes run by volunteers that they pay their own electricity bill, internet connection bills without getting anything from the blockchain itself. And they are, in my opinion, more important than the person that created the block.
For real decentralization.
For a real aspect of the centralized system, there where I am protecting the content of the blockchain because I care for the content. Is recipes, for example, and I care for recipes, so there is no financial value. There is the value of wanting to protect these things. Those that participate to guarantee the protection are those that need to be rewarded.
Consider, for example, that this is a real problem in the Bitcoin blockchain right now. There's like 10 mining pools that find all the blocks. The top 2 or 3 of those, if they, for a day, decided that they wanted to work together and roll back some transactions and start censoring the blockchain, that is completely within their power. And in fact, there's no way to prove that they don't do it quietly by communicating behind the scenes. that's not very decentralized. You know, if you had 1,000 people who each had a random chance to contribute blocks to the network, then you have a good chance that nobody can censor the transactions. But in the moment that you have to trust 2 or 3 parties not to talk to each other behind your back, then like how, you know?
And on top of it, one side brings money where money already there. And the other side really distribute if people really want.
It's an uncomfortable fact of nature at the expense of getting into philosophy that money tends to accumulate with the same people. And if the power in the blockchain is based on who has the money, then the power over the blockchain is going to accumulate in the hands of some people.
They need to be trusted by the rest as the blockchain trust.
So Roberto tossed out this challenge, and really, we beat our head against the wall trying to find and like, oh, it could be a video of itself for an hour to discuss everything.
The idea was basically create a mathematical connection chain from the date 0 to the current date to only using internal factors. So only the data saved in the blockchain can be used for the mathematical operation to chain the blockchain, and the value of this data has to grow with maturity. So more something is trustworthy, more value it has, and so the chain created using the mathematics through the trustworthy one created the better chain. Okay, there is a paradigm in blockchain that is very important to understand, because in a decentralized system there is not a single leader that move the pack in a direction. Each node is alone in making decision. And the most important thing is that when there is a moment to take a decision, all the nodes in the blockchain take the same decision. And this is the protocol that the consensus is coded about. So they need to be in consensus on the choice to make. When there are 2 possible different blockchains to choose from, there is a fork from the original blockchain, we need to have a method for all the nodes to choose one rather than the other, so that all together go in the same direction without creating a fork, the double spending issue that there is. And this is the mechanics of the protocol. So in Bitcoin, for example, they choose the one that uses more computer power for the mathematical connection between the blocks. So when there are many blocks that had used more computer power, that's the chain that they choose. Which means if there is a very weak, small proof-of-work blockchain and I put a lot of power to create an alternative history that is connected with more computer power, all the nodes are going to choose that, because the basic rule there is choose the chain with, in case of proof of stake, is choose the chain created by the account with more stake and they respect better their time. I want to create and Barton find a solution after we both been working on it, the mechanics to not relate this to finance, but relate this to history, and somehow make this chain valuable. And when there are 2 different forks, the best one is the most reliable one. That's simple said, but that was the vision, and that's what was proposed in Thailand when we met them.
It's easy to say, but like so many times, so in a sentence already, Roberto could communicate how it's what it's supposed to do. And then I would go, great, how?
So it doesn't matter how, that's you can solve that tomorrow.
Which we did for a lot of tomorrows.
And it's interesting because here we are building about the mechanics of how cool is ZooBC, but the challenge that we face was this, because when you have, let's say, 100 nodes, and you want to know which nodes are good and which nodes are bad in order to give them a reputation score, let's say, in order to know who need to be kicked out from the trustworthy ones, who is more trustworthy than another. The first instinctive thing is to ask each node an opinion of the other nodes, right? You ask, and because each node can vote on the other node, obviously they're going to vote themselves and their friends node high and the one that they hate low. But anyway, democracy is such that if the majority wants somebody in prison, even if did nothing, in theory, the guy...
And we wound up against the technical problem with this, which is that even in the best, cleanest form of the nodes voting on each other and even trying to give punishments for them voting badly or whatever this was, we wound up in the condition that somebody who controlled only 1/3 of the nodes on the network was capable eventually to kick off everybody else who was behaving honestly.
And this is the classic problem of a lot of other solutions, which they state very in small notes in their paper that
anything that uses Byzantine fault tolerance, they in fact they say it the other way around. They brag. And this was something that Roberto and I used to debate about. Is so they brag. It takes 2/3 of the network to be in consensus. You know, like 2/3 have to agree before the blockchain moves forward in a particular direction, and that means you have the security of this 2/3 agreement that it would take in a huge number of nodes for somebody to conquer. But
which really, is a beautiful way to say that only 1/3
has to stop
plus one,
and then the blockchain is stopped. It can't move forward anymore as long as only 1/3 of the people. And so, as I turned around all these solutions over and over again, you know, like Bitcoin has the 51% attack, and we kept being like, oh, can we improve the 51% attack? What if you needed 80% of the nodes to be in consensus and blah blah blah? And I started to propose this axiom, which I argued for harder and harder every time I came up against these walls, that any solution which requires the consent of more than half is going to be able to be blocked by less than half. It sounds very simple to say, but we were very optimistic that at first that there was a way to get around this.
And I do believe we found it actually. It's gonna be to be demonstrated, but I do believe that with the mechanics that we put in place, it takes not only an extreme amount of time to be able to get in the condition to perform an attack. But given the people has time and money, that's not the issue. But once you're there, you need to have at least, in my opinion, 80% to have the chance, the luck, to find a chain of events that exactly that can allow you to do the attack. It's just double lottery.
Yeah, and this is something that we really this is one of the ones that I don't even know if we realized we solved until we had built it into the protocol. But it was quite cool. We went back and thought carefully through it. So these things that use external factors, especially like proof of work. Consider, for example, this kind of attack, which is actually carried out, which is the one.
Last January.
Yeah, I forget which
Ethereum Classic.
On Ethereum Classic, okay.
Which is not a small unknown blockchain.
Yeah, the Ethereum Classic blockchain is going along with a certain amount of computer power, right? I have to get my hands straight here. With a certain amount of computer power, somebody wants to pull this attack.
Sorry.
Where am I? Somebody wants to pull this kind of attack where they so the blockchain is going along, and then this person says, okay, I'm going to make a transaction, so I'm going to go and trade some of my Ethereum Classic to an exchange and take some Bitcoin. So the transaction goes through just fine. Then that same guy rents more hashing power than the network for a short period of time. He goes, and so this one's moving ahead like this, he races ahead with his, and eventually all the nodes see his is the correct one. His new version of the blockchain erases the transaction where he spent the Ethereum Classic, and then he lets go of this thing. The whole network respects the one that he put a little bit more energy into, and now he's pulled off this trick. So it took us a long time to realize exactly what's wrong with it. There's several things wrong with it, but there's one of them that we solve out of the basket, which is one of the reasons that can happen is because people can change their consensus power on the network very quickly. So you can suddenly rent a lot of hashing power. You can suddenly shut down a lot of hashing power.
This happens when there is a new chain that makes a lot of money, a lot of people start mining the other chain.
And this is true in proof of stake as well. It's you know, if the thing that governs your block creating power is the money on the network, you can easily, in an instant, send your money to another account. You know, so these things can change quickly. So
the issue of the proof of stake, because being a supporter and a fan of proof of stake for quite a long time, I think it does work well when the value to protect is the coin of the blockchain itself. Because in fact, as in proof of work, 51% is a name. You need way more than 51% because
to reliably execute.
You need to go back a few blocks and rebuild more block in order to catch up at a better quality. So not only you need to be, if you are behind and you go to the same speed, you never catch up.
Yeah.
You need to be twice the speed at least, plus better quality. So you need to at least 3 times, you know what I mean, in order to do this. So if you time it properly and you just need to rebuild the past for 5 blocks, probably you catch up with it. If you need to go from the beginning of the blockchain, forget it.
And this is exactly the point I'm getting at, is that these kind of attacks are very sensitive on the timing. They're sensitive on the fact that the block creating power can shift quickly.
For hashing power, right?
Correct.
So that for proof of stake, you need to control the majority of the stake and distribute it along several accounts in order to be always the one selected in order to choose what goes in the block and to rebuild an alternative history that is better and win. So at that point, the one that you damage is your own self because you're killing an economy that you're holding. So it's really stupid attack unless the proof of stake blockchain has been used to manage titles of things that are worth way more than the coin on the blockchain. Let's say the blockchain coins has a market cap of $10 million, but you use it to manage bill of lading ownership of cargo worth $1 billion. Then, because you can sell the cargo, get the payment, and then bring back the cargo in your name to resell it to another person 3 times, then it's worth to own 9 of the $10 million worth of the blockchain tokens in order to perform the attack. And those blockchain, unfortunately, most of the time people don't even care about the token themselves because they're managed by bank and other things.
Correct. So we really wanted a security that doesn't depend on the value of the token, it doesn't depend on the number of hashing power, and more importantly even, that it can't shift quickly. And that's one of the most important properties that we got out of the way we designed the consensus in ZooBC. It's
amazing.
Yeah, there's a group of people who are allowed to create blocks, which hopefully is going to be quite large at all times. We want to start it very large from a very large decentralized number of people who don't know each other. We hope that it's going to continue to grow after that. The rate at which people can get kicked out of this thing, the rate at which people can join this thing is very slow. So even at the best, like if there's something that I want to change that's happening right now, if I want to undo a transaction, I really have to wait months or years, even if I honestly competed to put more nodes on the network and always keep them online and everything like that. It's a very long-term effort to try to conquer the blockchain. And that's something that's not true of any other blockchain that we're aware of.
So with ZooBC, we address a few things. First, huge blockchain size, no more the case with ZooBC, and it's an interesting solution. We didn't explain how it works, but it's very... Then download and be in the current way, in a 100% secure cryptographic way. New nodes are deployed super fast. And there is a very interesting way that we made special block for cryptography to hop between one and the other.
Practically re-implemented the torrent protocol inside.
Then for file distribution among the nodes, but those are things. So we address some existing problem and many more of the current blockchain, but we also added the new functionality that we dreamed that were there when we were implementing solution for our client. And I don't like people that say, well, with smart contract you can do any functionality you want. Oh my God, we already spoke about smart contract and the issue that there are there. And also the fatigue that the nodes have to go through to re-elaborate so many times the same code just because it's a script. We don't condemn smart contract, but I do believe that smart contract should work with the huge bottom sides of functionality that are already implemented, because the virtual machine that is there is just a virtual machine that any code can be executed. It should be a virtual machine that already provide simple things. Everybody use ERC20 to make tokens for this, token for that. Full code of ERC20 requires certain amount of effort to be executed and so on. If every Ethereum node had already the ERC20 as the core functionality of the node, the smart contract should only send the modifiers, only send the parameters, and execute. It will be way faster, the blockchain will be way cheaper in terms of space, and the deployment will solve a lot of problems.
And so this brings us to the next steps that we take after today, because already today we've, like Roberto mentioned, we've taken steps to improve a lot of these qualities, and I think of all the cool stuff that we did, probably the most important is the consensus layer, because the long-term security of the blockchain is the whole point. But going into tomorrow, into the future release, the future work, the next thing that we have in our sights is smart contracts and decentralized applications.
Decentralized applications.
So really, there's from the birth of Ethereum, the first idea of a decentralized application is that it's synonymous with a smart contract. They're the same thing, and every decentralized application is a smart contract running on some blockchain. We challenge this. I think we have, and this one's not quite as developed, but in the same way that we threw our head at the problem before until we had the proper solution, we intend to do the same with this problem. We're going to create a mechanism for smart contracts for decentralized applications that replaces the same functionality with more flexibility and just a more sane workflow.
So now, quite due message from the CEO of Blockchain Zoo that lead this in a vision type, this project, is the fact that we believed in this thing so much that we put ourselves into it in terms of financing it, in terms of working hard to deliver one initial product to the public. We have a long-term vision, which is going to require years of work. And how many new things we're going to learn in this time that going to help us pivot in the correct direction for what the market needs, what is the real necessity for decentralized solutions. So our dream is this: we didn't do an ICO, collect millions from people for the promise of something. No, we silently start creating our project, put our own guns, our own soul, our own money, our own time in this project. We arrive at the first version that is already very innovative compared to what is in the market. Now we need to make the world know about this thing. Start testing, start trying, start implementing projects on top of it, so that we can collect enough funds to bring the second version on, decentralized application, the third version on, multi-chain transaction, the fourth version on, full decentralized storage and web application. There are so many things that we want to do and that we have in plan to do, which require time, effort, super prepared developers. We have a nice team of 25 people now coding on these things, but we need the public support to make this happen. Just sharing this video, for example, would be an amazing thing that you can do to help us succeed.
If you're still watching 48 minutes in, which we hope you are, because I'm sure it's very.
But if you are watching 48 minutes in, means you're really a valuable supporter that we can count on.
Yeah, and we love you and we believe in you, and we hope that you believe in us, because we have very, very cool stuff that we want to do. We're working out the details right now at this moment of the sale that we want to execute in order to get this technology going, to get funded to build the next stuff that we want to build. We think it's going to be very, very beautiful work for the field in general and for the future of this technology. And we would really, really love the opportunity to spend all of our time working full-time on creating it.
So what can do somebody to support us? One thing is to spread the voice. Tell people, Google ZooBC, ZOOBC, and see how amazing things you can find, how interesting this technology is. That's the first thing. Second thing, you want to really do a big support, you can invest in our company, Blockchain Zoo. We have a headquarters in Hong Kong, we have offices in Bali, we have joint venture with other companies, we are present in Europe as well, in Singapore. So we are a large company, right? We can go back to do our normal consulting and make the money that we made in the past, which is not bad. Or we can really be one of the driving force of the revolution for decentralized technology and make money with it as well, thanks also to your support. Or if you want to just be part of the ZooBC launch, given that you've been listening us for 50 minutes, means you're interested, well then you can contact us. Go to zoobc.io. In a few days it's going to be open a website, and you can become an ambassador, share the news with others. you can purchase a space in the Genesis block of ZooBC. And as you know, like Satoshi Nakamoto left a secret message in the Genesis block of Bitcoin, like every blockchain has some message, you can leave your own message on ZooBC Genesis block, which is now a little thing, I will say, eh? And help us keep going with this project ahead, which consider is not just our two beautiful faces, but this is a team of 50 plus people that is working very hard to produce
between 25
something.
developers and between our full-time marketing staff and office administration and
Legal team to make the correct license and contract,
business managers with partners and other companies and
all these things. Well, we cut it short. I think
that's pretty much it.
Should we go on our knees and?
I mean, I think no, I don't think so.
Just kidding.
I don't think we have to beg. I think there's.
No, we're good off.
I think there are enough of you out there, hypothetically, if this video is viewed by many people in the future, who really believe in the power of decentralized technology and are really inspired by people who put their own time and their own money and their own brain power to make that a reality. When so many people out there who would love to either don't have the time, don't have the skills that they've built, don't have the resources. And so we hope that you will drive the decentralized revolution vicariously through us by lending us your support.
And most of all, when 1, 2 years, 3 years down the road, we're gonna be constantly mentioned and as one of the best technology, and this video is still there for people to watch, they're gonna say, shit, if I only acted in time, if I only saw this video, if I only was one of the lucky people that coincidentally managed to see this video, and I did something about it, I will be on board on there, right? Would you buy?
So we say to you watching this in the future, you had your chance.
Right, exactly.
You should have been here with us. We would have welcomed you.
If not, support us by spreading the voice of ZooBC. Thank you for watching, everybody.
Peace.